Under the ABC test, an individual providing labor or services for compensation is presumed to be an employee and not an independent contractor, unless the hiring entity proves all three conditions of the ABC test are satisfied. So we start from the default position that everyone is an employee unless proven otherwise, and that proof needs to come from and is bared the burden on the hiring entity. There's three conditions that need to be met. A, the person is free from the control and direction of the hiring entity in connection with the performance of the work, both under the contract for performance of the work and in fact. B, the person performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. And C, the person is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature as that involved in the work performed. Under the ABC test, courts presume workers to be employees. It is up to the hiring entity to prove all three conditions of the test. Otherwise, the worker is an employee. And importantly, it does not matter whether the worker wants to be an independent contractor or signed a contract to that effect. And that is what goes back to the portion that talks about it's not just based under the contract for performance, but the work in fact. So the courts are going to actually look at what's happening, not just simply what the parties want. If you're thinking that the use of the ABC test is reason alone to move your business out of California, don't pack your bags just yet. As of December 2023, over 30 other states and the U.S. Department of Labor use the ABC test or something similar to determine worker status. So this is not just unique to California. Condition A of the ABC test requires the hiring entity to show that the worker is free from the control and direction of the hiring entity in connection with the performance of the work, both under the contract for the performance of the work and in fact. The California Supreme Court in Dynamex explained this condition as follows, that a worker who is subject to the type and degree of control a business typically exercises over employees is considered an employee. Depending on the nature of the work and overall arrangement of the parties, a business need not control the precise manner or details of the work in order to be found to have maintained the necessary control. And the hiring entity must establish that the worker is free of such controls to satisfy condition A of the ABC test. The more the hiring entity exerts control, the more likely the worker will be deemed an employee. So let's talk about condition B. Condition B requires the hiring entity to show that the worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. This is straightforward and essentially means that if you are hiring someone to assist you in your primary business activity, it's unlikely they can be considered an independent contractor. These workers would ordinarily be viewed by others as employees of the company. This is, I think, of the three in the ABC test, the toughest to escape for some industries. The third of the ABC is condition C. This prong requires that the hiring entity show the worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature as that involved in the work performed. The phrase independent contractor is generally used to describe workers who have made the decision to go into business for themselves. As noted by the court in Dynamex, going into business for oneself often involves incorporating as a business, advertising, obtaining any necessary business licenses, registrations, making offers to provide business services to the general public. The hiring entity must prove the independent business operation is actually in existence at the time the work is performed. The fact that the business operation could come into existence in the future, or that the hiring entity did not prevent the worker from engaging in such a business, is not sufficient.